Say, take me on a treasure hunt. I long for something new. Have you heard the fairies when they sing and dance? Oh, I wish it was me every night. When I close my eyes, I see
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Winona and Rob Hollis here, and we're here to talk about pressing buttons.
Oh, goodness, yes, pressing buttons.
Why is it so easy for your spouse to press your buttons?
Why is it?
Well, there's a lot of opinions about this, right? Now, we posted this out to social media, and for a number of different groups, not just our own circles, we kind of did a survey to see what people generally thought about this. And some of the informations that we got were, well, kind of cool. Kind of great to see. Hey, good evening, Brittany. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Love to have you on board with us here tonight. And yes, we are going to capture some interesting conversation right here. In fact, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, honey, why do you think, I'm afraid to ask this, why do you think it's so easy for your spouse to press your buttons?
I don't know. Sometimes I think you think it's funny.
Well, sometimes it is.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Well, sometimes I do just try to make you laugh, and sometimes I miss the mark. But still, at least one of us gets a laugh.
Really?
One of us gets a smile out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it makes you smile on the inside.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Some of the questions or some of the comments that came through. First one is someone. I'm going to just say it was an anonymous female that came through on this one. Didn't want to call her out by name. And she says, he knows how to get on my nerves better than anybody else.
Actually, that's true.
It's true, but I do have a concern with this response.
Okay, what is your concern?
And that concern is it's assuming that there is a malicious intent. Just because I know how to scar you doesn't mean that I should take out the blade and scar you.
Well, that's true.
But
it doesn't always have to mean that it's malicious intent. It does not.
Well, what she's saying here is that he knows how to get on my nerves. And so he's going to do that because he knows how. And I don't know, it's just an undercurrent, an undertone of he wants to annoy me. He wants to get on my nerves. And he knows how, so he does it. I don't think it's really intentional. Whenever two people are loving each other, they do try to connect and they try to have fun with each other. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're just not in the mood.
And also remember, in a marriage, because we are talking about marriage, and we're going to keep it real.
Yes.
You can agree to disagree.
Well, okay.
Okay.
So whenever you press my buttons, you're actually trying to get on my nerves?
I might be sometimes.
Noted. Mm-hmm. Alrighty then. Well, Courtney had an interesting interesting feedback here for us. She says, a good spouse won't do that. Should they know your triggers? Absolutely. But should they exploit them? No. Now this kind of gets at what I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just because I know your triggers doesn't mean that I should intentionally provoke you. And vice versa.
But sometimes I think you just can't help it.
I think there are some responses that get to the can't help it part of it.
Uh-huh.
But again, what Courtney is saying here is there should not be a malicious intent in between spouses.
Okay.
I know how to if I know that you cannot stand fingernails on the chalkboard, then I shouldn't walk into a room I shouldn't like go out and buy a chalkboard, bring it to the bedroom, and then that would be intentional. That would be like going out of my way to get on your nerves.
Okay, so I think I even just said this earlier. So if you're mad at that person and then you do that, so how does that make you feel?
So
in that moment?
that's retaliation. That's revenge. Yeah, we should remove revenge and retaliation from our marriages.
Okay.
Now, in another part of our coaching, we do talk about grace-based versus merit-based marriages.
Yes, we do.
And a revenge or retaliation response,
Mm-hmm.
that definitely falls in the line of a merit-based marriage.
Okay.
Because if I say to you, well, if you treat me right, then I'll treat you right. You're going to earn my good graces.
So that's merit-based.
That is merit-based. And if you tick me off, if you press my buttons, if you really annoy me, then my response is to annoy you. Again, that's an example. That's a negative side of merit-based. But when we give each other grace, the way we were supposed to love each other, yeah, he pressed the button again. That's okay. I'm going to let it go. But I am going to let him know,
that you pressed the button.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't have to retaliate.
Okay.
You don't have to take revenge.
All right.
What did Tracy have to say? Go ahead.
So we're in this together. I mean, his actions affect me, and asking for improvement when he does not want to change is annoying him.
Annoys him.
Oh,
So what she's saying is,
okay.
in fact, there is more to this. We only had so much room on the screen to put the text.
Okay.
But she gave the example of we're at a restaurant and my husband is rude to the waitress.
Yeah, that's not nice.
And she says, you know what? When that waitress decides to get back at us, she's gonna get back at the table. She's gonna be licking my meatloaf. She's gonna be sticking stuff in my food to get back at him. But I'm the one that's going to bear the brunt of the fallout.
Oh, okay.
So then, as the wife, she wants to correct her husband and say, "Honey, please be nicer to her. I know that she just spilled a glass of water on your lap. Okay, but please." The way you respond to this is a reflection of me, and it can blow back on me as well.
Okay, I understand.
So that's what she's getting at when she says how his actions affect me as well. And we actually had a wonderful piece of feedback from Lisa, and this one was my favorite of all the responses that we received.
All right.
And Lisa says, because they are intimately acquainted with you, they know all of the great parts and the bad parts about you, and they want you to help you grow. They want to help you grow. So when you think about why is it so easy for my spouse to hit my buttons?
Okay.
What she's saying is a lot of people want to grow of their own accord. They don't want to be told how to grow. But if I come up to you and say, you know what, I really appreciate what you did, but here's some ways that you can improve.
Again, so that's back to the grace.
It goes one is back to the grace
Marriage. Okay.
but you have to be willing to receive the correction and the guidance that your spouse is providing.
This is true.
And when you're not willing to receive that, you're going to feel like your buttons are being pressed. You're going to feel like they're just getting on my nerves. They're just correcting me. They're just trying to tell me what to do. And then you dig in your heels and you decide, I'm not going to do it because my spouse told me to. And I'm going to tell you right now, I recognize that. I'm guilty of that as well. If you tell me, well, you cook my eggs hard fried again, hard fried. I know I've been cooking eggs for you for years. I know how to cook them. I don't need to be corrected.
This is true.
However, you are ensuring that you get the breakfast that you want because you really don't like cooked eggs undercooked.
At all.
So if I can accept, and if I even bring eggs that are a little undercooked to the table for you, and you say, honey, I really like my eggs done a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
It's my natural response to be somewhat offended by being corrected by that, but I need to get over myself
Right.
and then just say, you know what, honey, you're right. I'll do better next time. Not as a matter of not letting her get under my skin, but being able to receive her criticisms as constructive.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really good.
Would you agree with that one?
I would agree.
Oh, okay. Is there any situations where I've asked you to improve something, you'll be like, no, don't tell me what to do. No,
No.
no, she does. She doesn't do that at all. Just say.
Really?
Well, we had a comment from Kanzas. She says the reason why it's so easy to press each other's buttons as spouses is because of unresolved issues and frustrations from unmet expectations.
Wow.
Wow, I thought that was deep. I engaged on this one as well.
Okay.
I said, well, where do those expectations come from? Who sets those expectations?
Yes, who does set those expectations?
She had a very good answer. She said, sometimes they're unspoken. Sometimes they're self-perceived. Sometimes they come from an external source. And so the question becomes, did your spouse ever set those expectations?
Oh, okay.
Did your spouse say, I am going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do it in this order, and I'm going to do it by this time? Setting those expectations explicitly. Now, if your spouse has not set those expectations, but you're just assuming that he's going to do it this way in that time frame, you are the co-author of your own disappointment.
Yeah, yeah. But some women are like that, though, because they want it done then,
True.
Yeah.
And so we got to communicate
Yes.
and make sure we're on the same page when it comes to expectations.
Because communication is what?
Communication is key.
All right.
Communication is a foundation to any relationship,
Yes, it is.
especially in marriage. If y'all can't communicate with each other, let each other know what's on your heart, what your anticipations are, what your expectations are, then how are they supposed to know? We like to think that our spouse just innately knows us, that that we have this communication going on that doesn't need words. But yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We can read each other's body language and make assumptions, but we really can't know for sure until we open our mouths and express, and then acknowledge what we heard. And then you really get to the root of communication and being able to work together, setting each other's expectations. It's good stuff right there.
Good stuff.
Now, we had a number of people come back and say, because she's so important to me.
Oh.
Her opinion matters more than anyone else.
Wow.
So what do you think that's getting at, honey? And when someone says, why is it so easy for a spouse to press each other's buttons? And the answer is, because they're so important to me. Their opinion matters more than anyone else.
But I don't think that's actually, that comment right there is not actually a pressing pressing the buttons. I actually like this comment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, the person is important to them, So if they say something, however, if they're not taking it as it being annoying, they're taking it as okay, so she said what she needed to say to me, and yes, her opinion matters to the most to me. So, yeah. Again, I think that's when you have the gray space and not the mirror base.
Gray space, yes. Now, I have to admit that this is an area where I get a button pressed from time to time.
Really?
Yes, it is. And here's the thing. Here's what happens. What happens. Your opinion matters so much to me. I want to be, the smartest guy in the world to you. I want to be the most handsome guy in the world to you. I want to be everything. I want to be the top of the pile in every category to you. That's how important you are to me.
Wow.
So whenever you come to me and you say, hey, Rob, you got that one stray gray hair sticking out of your mustache. It presses my button because I'm thinking, well, I want to be the guy in the world that has the most perfect mustache in the world, and
Okay.
she's pointing out my flaw. She's saying that she notices the kinks in my armor,
Well,
and I'm not saying that I don't have kinks.
we all have
We
kids.
do, we do. But whenever I'm hearing that from the person whose opinion matters the most to me, it ends up pressing my buttons. You're right, it's a matter of pride. And that's a fleshy thing on myself that I need to take care of. I need to address
Yes.
that.
Yes, you do.
But I'm just pointing out what's being talked about here when she says the opinion matters so much, and that's why it's so easy for you to press my buttons. If someone else walked up to me and said, "Man, what's about that gray hair?" I'd be like, "Forget you." But if you say it, because you matter so much to me,
Or you can let me trim your goatee.
oh boy. Okay. Next. you know, we had a response from Matthew. From Matthew, he says, because focusing on what we get creates a landing strip for their bomber. We need to focus more on what you put into your marriage. Wow. I had to sit and think about that one for a minute.
Um,
And this is another one of those where there was more text than what we could put on the screen.
wow.
And he explained that as you're looking for what you can get out of a marriage,
Mhm.
it goes back to expectations. I want my wife to give me this. I want my wife to give me that, this, and this. And whenever I'm not getting those things,
Mhm.
then on a very prideful side, my buttons are getting pressed because my expectations, once again, are not getting met. But if I always have that mindset, what's she going to give me? What's she going to give me? What am I going to get out of this marriage? Then we will never be fulfilled. We're actually asking our spouse to turn us into an idol.
Mm. That's definitely not good.
Because whenever, you're right, whenever someone has a relationship with an idol, all they do is give and pour into it, and it never gives back. If I'm always looking at what I'm going to get, then my spouse, the only way she could satisfy that is if she pours into me. And if I'm not really focused on what can I give back to her, then I've actually turned myself, or at least I'm trying to turn myself into an idol in that relationship. But wow, how awesome would every marriage be if each person, man and wife, focus on what I could give? And it wasn't a one-way thing. It was a two-way street. Both of you are focusing, what can I give into this marriage? What can
Oh,
I give
that's
to my spouse?
wow. That's one. Yeah, that's really good.
And
That's
without the expectation of getting something in return.
that's great, actually.
Wow. Now I have to just get into a little bit of parenting. I've talked to our kids about whenever you have any relationship in your life, whether it be your friends, whether it be your parents, whether you be a boyfriend or girlfriend, don't let it be a one-way relationship. Always make sure that it's two-way. Because whenever it's a one-way relationship, there's always going to be someone getting their heart broken. Either someone's expectations are not being met, or someone is pouring so much in that they just get drained and there's nothing left of that person.
Wow.
And whenever you pour that much of yourself into your spouse and they're not returning it, they're not giving back, you get to the point where you just lose your stamina.
Yeah, because that when that happens, that means you're in a one way relationship.
Yeah.
That does not mean that you're in a two-way relationship. So you're not, you know, yes, it's like you're there by yourself, and that's definitely not that's a relationship.
Yeah, that
So
doesn't work out. That doesn't work out. Well, we had a lot more responses come in, but those were really the top ones that brought the most engagement into what we were doing here. We do have a few tips of our own from my relationship experts that we'd like to pass on to you. Unless someone has some additional comments or questions that you'd like to put into the chat, we'll go ahead and answer. That way we can get your question on the screen if you have something that you'd like to say. Well, while we're waiting for someone to type, if they want to, do you have anything else to say before we get into our 3 things about pressing buttons?
Oh my goodness.
See, you warned me before this that you were going to unleash on me or something about pressing buttons. I don't know what that's about. I really don't. Because, you know, I'm sure I don't press her buttons.
Oh.
No. No. It just doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
No.
Yes, it does.
Come
But
on,
we are, because we have a grace-based marriage
yes.
and not married. Because sometimes, yes, you do those little pressing of the buttons or the annoying stuff.
No.
Yes. Just like today.
Oh, no.
Had errands to run here and there.
Yeah.
So when I come back, I was already prepared to do the stuff that I needed to do.
Yes.
But that time frame, you decide you need to go ahead and do this stuff at the same time I needed to do the stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you were home for hours before.
No.
Yeah.
I was preparing a lot of stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
Okay.
But, yeah, we had our wires crossed. She had certain
Yeah.
expectations that actually I didn't know. And I had intended to work around the things that you had planned.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought that you were done with something, then I started to do what I was going to do after you were done.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in the middle of my thing, you started to continue doing the thing that I thought you were done with.
Which I wasn't.
Yeah, you weren't, and I didn't know. And so that ended up pressing a great big red button for you. Why did you wait until now? I said, well, in my heart, see, sometimes you try to do something for your spouse and you just miss the mark completely.
A whole big old mark.
It's like if you decide, I'm going to cook my wife's favorite meal.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and she comes home and she says, oh, I just went out to lunch with my friends and I am so stuffed. I had my favorite meal and it was so good. And you're thinking, what?
Uh-huh.
Now, who didn't communicate? Maybe the husband should have communicated to his wife that I'm preparing a wonderful meal for you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that would have prompted her to say, not tonight. I'm not going to be hungry. Or maybe the wife could have said, I'm going out to lunch with my friends and I don't even think I'm going to need dinner tonight. Now, this actually did not play out because my meals for you are always just on point.
Uh-huh.
Right?
They are, but however, we do get our wires crossed with that too.
But there's an example of how trying to do the right thing,
mm-hmm.
trying to do something nice and loving for your spouse can still sometimes press
the
a button. So, what does my relationship expert say about this topic? Insight number 1. Mild retaliation. Why is it so easy for your spouse to press your buttons? And we say mild retaliation whenever one of you gets hurt. So in other words, you know what? The Smalley Institute is a worldwide marriage help organization based out of Houston, in fact.
Oh, wow.
And they have one of the things that they talk about is their fear dance. What the fear dance is that you've got this a button. They call it a fear button. And while you keep it somewhat guarded, we can think of them as a trigger. If my wife presses that fear button in me, my natural reaction is to go and press one of her fear buttons.
Oh.
It's not even something that I would do intentionally. Spouses don't try to do this. It's a natural reaction that they found over years of research. So one person gets their fear button pressed and their natural reaction is to press their spouse's fear button. And guess what? Her natural reaction is to go and press my fear button. And you get on this downward spiral of pressing each other's fear buttons, and you get down to this low point, and you can't even recall where it started. What did we start
So
arguing
that's why
about?
they call it the fear dance.
That's
You're
why
dancing.
yes, exactly. Exactly. But what's interesting is there is a very simple cure for this. It doesn't even require counseling. Once you recognize this fear dance is starting, it just takes one of you, just one, to recognize that it's happening and stop.
Oh,
If you stop it, she presses my fear button. I'm like, oh, now that I recognize this pattern, I am not going to do a mild retaliation against her that's going to perpetuate the cycle. I can just stop and maybe even apologize. Honey, I see what we were doing. I played a part in this. I really apologize. Can you forgive me?
that's wonderful.
You know, and just as a side note, that is a great way to ask to apologize. You do apologize, but then you put the ball in your spouse's court. Can you forgive me? You don't just assume that you are forgiven because you apologize. You ask, you request it. Can you forgive me? And that will soften things even more and allow you to grow closer and more loving.
That's good. That's real good.
Yeah. Don't call us my relationship experts for nothing. Insight number 2. Being out of alignment is a reason why you press each other's buttons. And,
Woo!
and what we're talking about there is your temperament. You have temperamental areas in the areas of inclusion, control, and affection.
Yes.
And each one of us are hardwired by God Himself to have certain temperaments in each one of these areas. Now, it can be that our temperaments align and complement each other. It could be that our temperaments are so out of phase with each other that we have to work extra hard to come back into alignment. And that's where we need to give each other grace. A great example that I've seen recently, um, the husband is what we would call choleric. He is more of a general. He wants to give directives and with the expectation of those orders, those things being done immediately. Go cook me some dinner, and it's going to be cooked. It's not, oh, think about it. No, I want my dinner, and you're going to cook it now. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that is his temperament. That's how he's wired. But on the other hand, his wife, she is what we call phlegmatic, which means she has a plan. She has a course throughout her day, even throughout the next hour. She has a plan in her mind what she's going to do. And so when she gets the directives, and maybe cooking dinner wasn't a great example because dinner usually takes a while.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to be so direct when he's saying it.
Well, I'm not saying that he's saying it so directly.
Oh, okay.
Let's say that, for example, um, he needs a shirt that she put somewhere, she put away, and he doesn't know where she put it.
Okay.
Okay? Honey, could you get my shirt for me? That's a very diplomatic request. I mean, only you know where my shirt is. Honey, could you get my shirt for me? Now, in this case, he's thinking, I want that shirt right now. As the choleric, his his temperament is saying, I want that shirt now. I was very nice in how I asked for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I want it now. It was a nice request, but I expect you to respond immediately. Now, the wife being phlegmatic,
Mm-hmm.
she has already planned what she's going to be doing for the next hour. She's going to go over here and do this. She's going to go over there and do that. And going and getting this man's shirt
It's messing with
is
her plans.
outside of her plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so she continues to execute her plan all the time. She is rearranging things in her mind and how she's going to address his need and getting that shirt. but it doesn't come immediately because she was already in cycle doing something else.
And she just made that way,
And she's just made that way.
though.
So now we've got two people who are really pressing each other's buttons.
Yes.
10 minutes later, the husband's saying, honey, where's my shirt? And the wife is saying, could you please be patient? Stop pressing me. Then 5 minutes later, he's saying, get my shirt. And then she says, please be patient. I'm working on it. And this goes back and forth because they're out of alignment. It takes a moment to realize, you know what, my spouse is not being difficult here. That's how he's wired. He is expecting it right now. This is how I'm wired. I've got to plan the retrieval of that shirt for him. That's just how I am.
How about having a moment to pause?
Well, the suggestion in this particular case was whenever you receive the request, respond, one, acknowledge that he asked for it, and two, give him a time frame.
That's good.
Hey, honey,
Yeah,
can I get it to you in 15 minutes? I'm in the middle of something right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that way he does not feel disrespected that you just blew him off. And she feels like she's in control of her plan. It worked. And it's just little tweaks like that that can make things just smooth out. And one of the things that we found is that whenever people go through this process of doing what we call a critical marriage alignment, a lot of other problems just disappear.
That's good.
Because you're no longer pressing each other's buttons just by the natural people that you are. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add about? I know we've got a temperament story that you often share. I'll give you the floor to do that, my dear.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to.
Okay, so my temperament is I actually love to shop.
Oh.
That's actually part of my makeup.
Yes, believe it or not, shopping can be a God-given temperament trait.
And I liked it when I saw it on there. I was just like, that's why I like to shop.
I didn't like seeing that, but hey.
But on the flip side of that is you don't.
No.
But we had no idea until we did our temperaments that that's how we are.
We thought we were being very difficult with each other.
Yes, we really did.
Why would she drag me? What was the story? That you said, I want to go look at this, and we're going to go to just one store.
And
just
we
one
ended up going to 4.
5 stores at 3 different malls.
4 or 5 stores. Anyway, it was a lot of stores.
It felt like 15.
To you. Not to me. So, yes.
So, yeah, when we realized that we have these different I do have a need to just retreat and just be in my sanctuary called home.
And I don't like that.
And if she's at home too long, she'll go stir crazy.
Yes.
She actually needs to be around people to get energized.
Yes.
And when we realized this, the solution for us in this area was for me to say, you know what, it's okay for you to go shopping without me.
So and now I do it.
And for her to say, Rob, it's okay if you don't go with me. She does not see it as a personal affront. She doesn't look at it as I'm blowing her off, that I don't want to spend time doing with her something that she enjoys doing. She understands that, well, the reason why he's staying at home is that he needs to stay at home to recharge. And I'm really going to get a bad Rob. I'm going to get bad Rob if I take him out. And he's not being difficult. I'm just pushing him beyond his limits.
And glad we learned that early on.
Yes. Yeah, we might still be at each other's.
I know, right?
And so we have one more tip along these lines. And that is, this is my favorite one.
It is?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Insight number 3 of why is so... Why? Not even why it's easy, but why, perhaps, we press each other's buttons in marriage. And that is because being able to love your spouse through discord is a gift from God. Because discord puts your differences on display. Now think about it. If you and I never had any discord, if we never had any strife, if we never had anything that we disagreed upon? Where's the witness in that? Where is God's love? How am I showing God's love if you are just perfect all the time, from my perspective? You know,
There's no such thing.
well, there's no such thing, but it's kind of like the reason why um, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was placed in the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
If it wasn't there, we never would have made a choice to eat from it. Likewise, if you are everything in perfect alignment with me, and I never, you're so perfectly aligned with me that I never have to give you grace, then how am I witnessing God's love as in my love for you? How can I witness that if I never have to give you grace on anything? When that came to me as a revelation this past week, I thought, wow. You know, there's an incident that happened at our wedding, and even though I keep bringing it up, I'm not upset about it. I actually cherish this moment, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You see, we're sitting there. She is giving her vows.
Oh my gosh.
As she is reciting her vows,
Did we just go say the phone? Somebody's phone.
somebody's
rings.
phone, yes,
Yes.
somebody's phone in the front row rings. And then this person answers the phone and says, I gotta call you back. I'm at the wedding. Like, wow, and the person who called knew that she was going to a wedding.
Yes, yes, it is.
What? And I look back at this, I'm thinking, wow, that was so awesome. Why was that awesome? Because nobody got upset with anybody about it. It became a humorous anecdote of our wedding. Something that we'll look back and laugh, perhaps one of the most memorable moments of our wedding.
Yeah, it was on video. It's on the whole thing.
But that's okay. It was, think of it as a test that God gave us early in our marriage.
Yeah, yes.
Do you have the heart to extend grace? It's something that a lot of people would just fly off the handle about. Oh, I can't believe this has happened. Like it ruined the whole wedding. Nothing on your wedding day ruins the wedding unless you didn't get married. At the end of the day, you got married. And that's the beautiful thing. Everything else is just memory that adds to the event. And yes, this was a memory that we add to it. And as we can look at it and extend grace, not just to each other by enjoying the moment and laughing about it, but also to the person whose phone rang, it kind of reflects what's in our hearts as we go into this marriage and continue into this marriage. We have hearts of grace, and that was beautiful for God to reveal to us so early on. So yes, as you press my buttons ever so often.
Same here.
And I continue to extend grace to you.
Same here.
And continue to love you.
Same
It
here.
is an example of how God loves us through all of our misdeeds, through all of our transgressions, through all of our sins. I mean, just think about how often we press God's buttons. Yeah, He knew that we were going to do everything that we do.
Yeah. And He still loves us.
And He still loves us.
Yes.
And that is grace. And He instructed us to love each other as He has loved us.
This is true.
So it's a beautiful thing to have your buttons pressed. It is a blessing to have your buttons pressed and have the heart to love through that. Well, does anyone else have anything to say or anything to add to this conversation? Do you have anything that you would like to add to this conversation?
No, my love. I think we touched base on a lot of stuff tonight.
Yes, we did.
And thank you, Miss Brittany, for spending time with us. We
Indeed.
do appreciate it. We love you. So
Now, the beautiful thing about these lives is that they survive. they live on.
Yes,
So
they do.
for anyone, we did get a number of people say, "Oh man, I'm going to miss it." No, you just missed the interaction. But hopefully, you still received some good insights from what we shared with you here tonight. So until
Exactly.
then, have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, we will.
Know it, so I trust you when you say that beauty